Welcome, everyone, to the Beards and Bible podcast. I'm here on this glorious afternoon, a little cloudy. I was going to say sunny afternoon, but it's not. It's cloudy where I'm at. I'm taking my lunch break with my good buddy Gabe as he's drinking his lunch coffee.
Yeah, it gets me through the day. So it's a glorious day, huh? That's good. I'm glad you're having a glorious day.
Oh, well, I don't know if glorious is the... It's really cloudy and kind of like bleak here.
Really? I wish we had that, man. It's so sunny and...
Really?
Yeah, it's sunny and like 92 degrees out. I don't know why.
Gosh, maybe because you live in lower Alabama, the armpit of the devil.
Is it raining there?
Yeah, it's been raining pretty much off and on all week. It's kind of like Seattle weather here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds wonderful. It's been so dry, so hot past couple weeks. We have zero rain. Stacy set a wood privacy fence on fire trying to burn some...
What?
Trying to burn some clippings. Yeah. She set the fence on fire. I wish I had a picture to show you, but I don't have it.
Oh, my
It's all charred. I mean, like a good 6 square feet of it's just black charred. So,
my goodness. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But she's okay?
Mm-hmm. She's okay. Yeah, she's
okay. Good.
She's totally fine. I was ragging her pretty hard about it.
I was about to say, I think that probably would have been a funny scene to see you putting out the fire while laughing also at your wife, your poor, sweet, kind wife who accidentally set the fence on fire. So
yeah. So what's new in the hood?
Man, lots to talk about today.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk stuff. So we were recording 2 weeks ago today on a lunch break. I guess it would have been when the shooting happened, either during us recording or right afterwards.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it took me probably, a week and a half to really process it all. And I think what made it harder to process and what kept, I think, delaying me processing is like I had to get off social media for a good portion of it because some of the nonsense that was going on social media was just really hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? I mean, what was that? Was that like you processing that?
Yeah, I think the first day was just kind of like it didn't really affect me that much emotionally speaking, and then subsequent days, you kind of like it felt like a real punch in the gut for a lot of different reasons and layers, I would say. I didn't listen to him as much as maybe Stacy or my son Noah did.
I didn't listen to him much at all.
Noah was watching some of his videos that morning on his phone.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so it really...
And that's your oldest son who's 19?
17.
17, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it just kind of like as you begin to process and kind of digest all what that symbolizes, I think, for the United States, it's kind of like, man... and it's interesting that it came in a week that was already emotionally kind of vulnerable. Like it was a nerve that was kind of already exposed, that being the anniversary of 9/11.
Sure.
And it almost felt like a little 9/11.
Sure.
Is how I heard some people describe it.
To Noah's generation, it probably felt like his 9/11, like his generation's 9/11, because he wasn't around for 2001. Yeah, and I think what it was, like, even though I wasn't a huge Charlie Kirk fan, I never had anything against Charlie Kirk. I think I agreed with most of what he would say. I consider myself pretty conservative. I think it was really what he embodied and represented in the sense of him going to campuses, him sitting down with a mic saying, I'm going to make a claim, prove me wrong, persuade me as to your viewpoint concerning this idea. Let's have a conversation about it, right?
Right.
That there's a whole, I guess, slew of people in the aftermath of his death that applauded his death.
Yeah.
And
mocked his death.
It mocked his death, said they're glad it happened, all this stuff that it's just kind of like, wait a second, is that where we've come to? That like someone that says something you disagree with, instead of you being willing to sit across the table from them and say, let me tell you why I think you're wrong and let's talk about it, I want to end your life. I mean, is that really where we've come to? And I think that was just probably the toughest pill for me to swallow. And that's kind of why I had to get off social media, because of that because of the nonsense going on with people. He deserved it. Violent begets violence. I wish I had never understood that one. How was he violent? I don't understand that. Did you see any of that? I mean, was it kind of the same? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of the first things I saw that were along that line was like a quote of his taken out of context that said something about like, I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, and sometimes gun deaths are inevitable with Second Amendment.
Yeah.
That's just like overlaid on top of him. And what's wild about this assassination is the fact that the footage of it just permeated the internet.
Oh man. I wish I never would have seen that video.
Yeah. I watched the one from probably 150 yards away of him just crumpling and falling on the stage and falling backwards. But no, I couldn't watch any other ones beyond that. I couldn't.
I accidentally I was on Twitter that morning because, it was a developing story. People had said that he was in critical condition in the hospital.
Right.
And then it came out that they had a subject in custody. And then it turns out that, he actually died and that subject was not the actual gunman. But I was trying to keep up to date on that. And I saw a video from like 20 or 30 yards away. And it was awful. I wish I never would have seen it. I don't even know if it's still up, but if it is still up, don't go looking for it. Because, I would close my eyes at night and that's what I would see. It was just...
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Gory.
Yeah, man.
We're just not meant to see that,
No.
I think just in the a few minutes after his assassination and that gunshot rang out, you saw one individual who I believe was saying, I shot Charlie Kirk. If I'm not mistaken. He was an older man, white male. And he later admitted that he was shouting that so that the real shooter could escape.
Yes.
I think that's a real kind of like picture of where Americans went at that moment.
Yeah.
That there is a whole cross section of Americans who saw what just transpired as akin to someone assassinating Adolf Hitler. Here's someone who is a fascist, quote unquote, who's inciting violence against homosexuals or transgender people, against blacks. It would be a righteous sacrifice for someone to give up their freedom to see him dead.
Which is the craziest idea. If that was true, if he actually was a fascist that did want to murder blacks, homosexuals, and transgenders, right? Then that would be at least somewhat understandable. Right? But when you actually examine that to reality, not just to very, very charged, angry rhetoric, but to reality, nothing could be further from the truth. That is a slander, a libel that is of just absurd proportions. And you had author Stephen King going on Twitter and saying that he advocated for the stoning of homosexuals, which he has never once a single time ever in his career advocated for that.
And here's the thing, like if there was an individual who was espousing those ideas, it would be a totally different scenario here. Sure, I would say even if they're openly calling for violence against innocent people, he still has not broken the law, still deserves the right to say that in the United States of America. That's very unfortunate. But I could see, I could see where you could get that. That seems like an act that you led yourself to do. And I'm not going to celebrate the death and downfall of my enemy per se, but I'm not going to be as heartbroken over it. But that's not the case. That's not what Charlie Kirk was doing. But here's the question is like, how there's people, I would say thousands upon thousands of people in the United States of America that firmly believe that America is now a better and safer place without Charlie Kirk in it. How do they get there? How did they come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
That sniper on the roof, that kid on the roof who pulled the trigger, what led him he thought, he believed with all his heart, he was willing to put his life on the line for this. How did he get there?
Yeah.
And that's a very complex answer, but I think one of the biggest chunks of the answer to that question is the fact that we live in an algorithmically extremely divisive and polarized world via social media.
Yeah, and I think, to answer how did we get there, I think you and I have talked on this podcast for years about political rhetoric and how concerned you and I have become about throwing out a word like fascist or Nazi or communist or whatever, comparing someone to Joseph Stalin or comparing someone to Adolf Hitler simply because they're on the opposite side of the political aisle. And it almost seems like that rhetoric has become more and more and more supercharged over the years. And just the crazy cycle of someone on this side says this, so then someone on this side says, well, he's a Nazi. That's why he's saying that. But I think that the part of it that I've just sat back and scratched my head, because I've seen some folks that you and I went to college with hopping on their social media and saying that, Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. And I'm just like, first of all, I'm getting off social media like now after seeing that. Secondly, will you please define for me what is a Nazi? What's a fascist?
No idea. But I'm quoting those people. They would have no idea.
No.
And the very ironic thing is that assassinating someone who you disagree with, ideologically disagree with,
the Nazis would do.
That's a very hallmark fascist thing to do. There's June 30th of 1934, the night of the Long Knives. Adolf Hitler ordered his most loyal followers to go through Germany and assassinate, eliminate rivals inside and outside the Nazi movement. I don't remember. I think it was dozens of leaders. Everyone from like mayors to members of the German parliament. They were assassinated in that span of a couple days. That's a very fascist behavior.
Right.
It's exhibited there. So
yeah,
I don't know what's more fascist, like killing someone because you disagree with them, or just letting them talk and let their ideas run full course. And
historically speaking, liberalism has always meant the open exchange of ideas and the ability to agree or disagree with those ideas. Right? Classic liberalism has always meant that. So in some ways, it's absolutely a reversal of what those things have always meant. Those who are calling people Nazis are acting like Nazis, and those who are more conservative are actually espousing a form of classical liberalism. So it's just, it's like these names are being shouted at one another, and nobody's stopping and just saying what actually corresponds to reality. And why don't we just take a second and just talk through that? But I think in some ways, man, it's just what was such a gut punch for me is it just reflects the state of political polarization. When this happened, that was a gut punch to me, but more so when I hopped on my social media that night and saw folks I went to college with celebrating. That was horrifying. What have we become? What have we become? And then it turned into everyone has to say this now. And the whole, your pastor has to say something about Charlie Kirk exactly like this, or he just needs to resign from his pulpit because he's a weenie. Or your pastor shouldn't say anything about Charlie Kirk because he's called to preach the word, and you need to quit your church and go to another church if your pastor says something, or if your pastor doesn't say something, that means he's a coward. But if he says it this way, he doesn't preach a whole sermon about it. And it just, that's what's hard for me. So I don't know if you saw that aspect, and that was hard for you too.
Yeah. I did. And I did mention Charlie Kirk the weekend after. I think
I did too. Yeah.
I spoke at length about how we as believers react to evil. Um, but yeah, I don't think that there was any. There's no biblical mandate that says that a pastor should or should not address
Right.
this.
Right.
I think it's good for pastors to have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the United States and
Sure.
sensing that tension in everyone, knowing that people are looking for answers, knowing that people are looking for clarity on something. There's just so many voices out there. But yeah, it's like this divisive political rhetoric, and it's both on the right and on the left, willing to throw out these little platitudes, willing to throw out these little sound bites. I mean, Donald Trump is guilty of it.
Yeah. Very
and
much so.
we're just so reckless with our words on the right and on the left in the United States. It's like a doctor who, these politicians are like doctors who know that what medicine they're prescribing isn't going to be the cure for an illness, yet they prescribe it anyways just because it helps the patient feel at peace and reassured and keeps them coming back.
Yeah.
So it's like the doctor's profiting in the short term, but overall the patient's health is just getting worse and worse over time.
Sure.
It's like that's what politicians are doing in the United States right now. It's like they're doing these, they're sending out these messages and these intense little one-liners and stuff for political gain, just to like make jabs to kind of defame their enemy, to slander their political enemy, adversary. But what they don't realize is that the patient's health, the United States, the populace of the United States, our health is worsening, and the polarization is worsening.
Yeah.
And it's scary, to be honest with you, that there are gobs of people out there who see this Charlie Kirk assassination from a completely different angle and see it as, like I said earlier, America is now better off.
Right.
And then you see the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And I don't know what the ratios are there, but it's enough that I would say we got to be really careful. This is not good.
Yeah. Well, and I think one redeeming aspect of what happened was you and I were texting a little bit about the memorial service that aired on national television this past Sunday, that I got a chance to watch, and I'm guessing you watched most of it. That was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There was, we can get into it and break it down a little bit, but if you missed it, you go on YouTube and watch it. It is an incredible tribute that was paid to him. And I want to address that before we dive into that. Let's talk about this aspect. There's been a lot of people on either sides, some Christians saying that he was a martyr for the faith, some Christians saying that he was like Jesus and that he laid down his life for what he believed in, and then people on the left mocking Christians for calling him a martyr and mocking Christians for comparing him to Jesus. So how do we untangle that ball of yarn and just say, okay, well, let's talk. What does it mean to be a martyr? Was he a martyr? How do we make sense of that? Because that has become also a test of loyalty to your side, whether or not you're willing to use the M word or not.
Yeah. I think he was just across the line into the martyr territory. Okay. I think he was a strong believer.
Yes.
Who was
unashamed about it and talked openly about it. Yes.
Very open about it. And I would say was growing more and more vocal about it.
Yeah.
As of late, under the influence of his mentor, Frank Turek. I think Charlie Kirk began to realize that the bedrock of a civilization and the foundation of all this, the starting point of all of this, really is a conversation about a transcendent higher power.
Right.
And whether or not you believe in that, and who that is, and where can we find that creator's oracles, let's call them. So I think he began to realize that this is a conversation more about faith than it is about ideology and politics.
Right.
I think his conversations began to shift to that. So I think he was a strong, fundamental Christian whose faith educated his politics. And while if you take the total amount of words that he ever spoke during his activism, let's call it, I think the majority are still political in nature. Right. But that is deeply informed and deeply influenced by his faith.
Yes. I would agree with you. I would agree with you. I'm a little hesitant for that to be what he is primarily known as a martyr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think if you look historically just across the ages of the church, Polycarp of Smyrna probably was a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
straight up, right? There wasn't
Yeah.
that was what he stood for, was Christ and the message of Christ, not, politics. And then his politics were informed by his faith. So did he die because of what he stood for and believed in? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is, by definition, kind of martyrdom, is dying for what you stood and believed in.
Yeah.
Now, what did he stand and believe in? He believed in conservative ideology, conservative government, and all of that was undergirded by his Christianity. So there's an aspect of his life that, yes, he did die for what he believed in. And so in that sense, yes, he was a martyr. Was he primarily known as a Christian minister? No, he wasn't. He was a political activist, right? So we got to be nuanced with that. How about our folks on the left? We got a Facebook comment right as I posted the bumper, which is exhausting sometimes. And I'll just say this, part of why it's so hard as a pastor right now is that it doesn't matter what you say, people are going to tell you that you should have used your platform differently. And especially with stuff like this, like you say, hey, we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk, and then somebody gets on there and, well, how come you didn't talk about blah, 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 blah? And it's like, because we're talking about Charlie Kirk today. That's why, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess one of the comments that we got was, what do you say about people comparing him to Jesus? First of all, have you heard anybody say that Charlie Kirk is Jesus? Because that's...
No.
I've not heard anybody say that.
I mean, it's... Comparisons can be drawn, yes.
Yeah, how so?
But
let's pull on that.
I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to do that, but I mean, it's like, okay, here's someone that we know of, was pretty much innocent in terms of the law of the land.
Right.
Okay.
Not deserving of his death, certainly.
Right. Was not deserving of the death penalty.
Right.
Was falsely accused, slandered. I mean, if you actually dig into the context of what he's saying, many of those things, all those things can be proven to be without context and false narratives. Publicly executed in front of people some of whom were mocking him. Publicly executed in front of people who loved him as well. But I don't know. Maybe there's more, but it's kind of where it stops in terms of comparisons I can come up with. He was still a sinful man.
Sure.
Fallen, and he would be the first to admit that.
Of course.
He had no miraculous powers that I can speak of, but he didn't save us from our sins. He didn't atone for anything, so to speak. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where it stops.
Yeah. So I mean, here's the part of it that just drives me crazy about that criticism. Number one, find me a conservative that's saying Charlie Kirk is Jesus. You won't. And number two, why is it that someone who is in the progressive camp gets to look at social activism on the left and say that's very Christ-like because it holds to the teachings of Christ, and you are in bounds for saying that person is Christ-like, but then you look at somebody on the right who stands up for what they believe to be true and is persecuted because of it, and we can't say that that's Christ-like. That's not a fair critique at all. It is possible for followers of Jesus to be Christ-like. That's like the basis of what it means to be Christian. So in that sense, when admirers of Charlie Kirk from either the right or the left, because there are both admirers of Charlie Kirk from the right and the left, those who disagree with him but still celebrate his ability to be bold enough to stand for what he believed in, they look at that and say that is a Christ-like quality. And yes, he was a lot like Jesus in that.
Well, yeah, and to the commenter who asked that, can we address people who's comparing him to Christ? Look, isn't it our job as believers to compare ourselves to Christ every single day?
Right. Whether or not we're falling short or living up to it. Yeah.
We're trying to be like him. Now, if there's someone who is putting him on a pedestal that is as high as him, that's obviously problematic.
Of course.
Send me a screenshot. I'll be the first to disagree with him and publicly come out and say that is not the right thing to do.
Right.
But can we compare him? Yeah, sure. We should compare ourselves to him. But
Yes.
it will always see that we're come up short and in need of his saving act. But yeah, I think there are some similarities, obviously, but
Right. Right.
brought out a few. But no, I don't. I haven't seen anyone, and I'm
No.
pretty active. I think I've been watchful for that kind of stuff. I haven't seen a single
It's
person
a
saying,
it's
"Oh, it's like he's the next Christ" or something. I haven't seen that at
no, no,
all.
no. That's it. It reminds me of the whole red cup controversy at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that a couple of years ago?
No.
Starbucks released red cups. They didn't have any Christmas things on it, but it was the red cup, and there was no Christmas trees. It was just a red cup.
Yeah.
And all these people got on social media and were like, "Oh, I can't believe all these Christians are offended by the red cups from Starbucks." Remove. And I'm like, I'm a pastor. I don't know a single Christian who is offended by the red cups at Starbucks.
Mm.
I don't know a single one. But you had all these people that were like, "Oh, these Christians! Look what these Christians are so dumb." And it's the same thing. Look at all these Christians who say Charlie Kirk is Jesus. Show me one. I've not met him.
Mm. Yeah.
So you're picking an imaginary fight with an it's a straw man argument. There's nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
What people are saying is that he stood up for what he believed in and he suffered dearly for that, and so did Jesus. That's all they're saying.
Yeah.
And in some ways that is very admirable because we all should be willing to stand for what we believe in.
Right. Yeah. We all should be willing to get it to a point where we can die for what we believe in. And
Yeah.
I mean, a good mental exercise, I think, in this, and it's like picture someone, Josh, that you strongly disagree with on an ideological level.
Yes.
Can you name someone, like a public figure?
A public figure I disagree with on an ideological level. That would be probably Jen Psaki, the MSNBC host.
Okay.
Or Rachel
Yeah.
Maddow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So they're giving a talk at a college campus, and someone from the right, someone who is, let's say, a MAGA supporter or whatever, comes and they assassinate them in public on the internet. Does that make you sad in any way? For me,
Yes.
the answer is yes, absolutely.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's the component that I disagree with them on on an ideological level, but they're still someone's child. They're still potentially someone's wife. They're still potentially, the list goes on. It's like there's so many lives were impacted by this. They didn't deserve that death penalty. So I can't really, I think it speaks to this broader question of like, what does the assassination of Charlie Kirk to us symbolize and herald for the United States of America? That's the bigger thing that I would say is brings a whole other wave of like, it's almost like a sense of despair, loss of control.
Right.
That in the United States, we're getting to a point, it seems like, well, I guess we were there with MLK Jr. as well, but it seems like it's okay to assassinate someone you disagree with.
Right.
And then there's a lot of people that celebrate that or can mock that or make jest of that.
Yeah.
And that's like it's a herald. It's like a harbinger of perhaps the mob mentality is taking over. The mob mentality is winning over open, free dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you just articulated the feeling down deep in my gut the week that it happened of just that idea. What have we become and what are we becoming? But I will say this, if you got a chance to watch the memorial service and you got to see a gospel presentation and people responding to it, you got to see government officials, whether or not you agree with them or disagree with them, openly talk about the Christian faith. And you can decide for yourself whether they're sincere or insincere. But then you got to see Charlie's widow get up and deliver a speech where she said, "I forgive this young man who ended the life of my husband." Man, that was one of the most powerful things I think I have seen in a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah, man, that was really heavy.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly strong woman. I don't know if I would be able to do what she did. I mean, watching her face and watching her words as she's saying those things, she said, that young man, I forgive him. Whew, it was like you could see that there was like a battle going on inside of her as she is saying those words, you know?
In front of 80,000 people and millions more watching on live TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man. And I think that's what this world needs. And that is definitely one of the silver linings of his death, as tragic as it is that people from all walks of life who knew nothing about Charlie Kirk were tuning into that and watched the ideals of the gospel, the ethos of the gospel, be walked out publicly and lived out publicly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I mean, this is just anecdotal. I think I have pretty good evidence to think this was a national phenomenon. It's not just a local phenomenon. But our church attendance has surged and spiked here at our congregation the last 2 weekends.
Wow, that's cool.
Folks that I've never met, I've never seen them in church, or folks that had, gotten in church and been out of church. And a lot of them that we've spoken with have talked about just how that feeling of how urgent this moment is has led them back to a place of either searching or seeking or saying, I need to figure this out. I need to know what this is about. And so, yeah, I mean, that is a silver lining in the sense that there's a whole generation that is now saying, we've got to find God in this. And that's a beautiful thing. And, God has a way of taking tragedies and turning them around for good and to be a blessing to a nation. And so, whether you disagreed with Charlie Kirk, whether you thought his ideas were terrible, whatever, I think it's undeniable to see that as a result of at least his willingness to say, I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, God's been glorified in a significant way. Yeah, I think that's admirable.
Let me search for the J.D. Vance quote about, I can paraphrase, I guess, but basically he said, J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, got up and said, it's better to die prematurely holding firm on your faith than it is to live out as, someone who's lukewarm or something like that. I forget the exact quote. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. Not standing for anything or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, and he explicitly said, having faith in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Yeah. This is the vice president of the United States of America. Sure. And while I disagree with him on his choice of Catholicism and all that, but
right.
I firmly agree with him on that statement. And I would say if you're on the left-hand side of the political aisle, but you're a Christian, you have to swallow your pride in that moment and say, yeah, I didn't vote for that guy. I don't agree with him on politics, but that is a message I believe that America should hear.
Yes.
And needs to hear, and it's good for them to hear.
Right.
You have to admit that.
Sure.
Sure. You can say, well,
that's not a political thing. That's just a humanity thing. And that's a spiritual thing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you could say, well, it's just theatrics. He was just faking it to kind of reclaim the evangelical or Christian vote and stuff. And you can believe that. That's fine. Yeah. Maybe that's the case. But regardless, he's speaking truth. Yeah. And I think the apostle, there was this interesting story that came out, and I'm not one to speculate. I want to be really careful that I'm yet to really, Stacy actually sent this to me, and I'm not certain it's been 100% confirmed yet, but there was this story that emerged that there was this left-leaning women's news opinion website called Jezebel. Did you hear about that?
My wife was telling me about that. It was on Megyn Kelly on her podcast.
Yeah, Megyn Kelly was talking about it. Yeah, that they hired a bunch of witches to put a curse on Charlie Kirk
before the assassination.
2.5 weeks before the assassination, and I guess it bothered Erica so much that they had a family. Oh, no worries. They had a family friend come over and pray over Charlie, which is it just really highlights that the demonic satanic realm saw Charlie Kirk as a threat to their agenda and their scheme. That this was a spiritual battle. You could say, "Oh, he was just really into politics," Well, apparently
not.
Apparently it's not how the satanic and spiritual realm saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 thoughts, and I'd love to get your thought on this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you make it all the way through Donald Trump's 45-minute speech at the Charlie Kirk Memorial?
No, I didn't.
I did not either. He lost me when he started talking about Tylenol. And he didn't actually say that it was Tylenol, but he said, "We've got a big announcement coming tomorrow. We're going to tell everyone what causes autism." And I'm like, why are you talking about that at a funeral?
Yeah, no, I think they should have given him 10 minutes to talk. Yeah, 5 or 10 minutes to talk, and they should have ended with Erica.
Yes.
And not ended with him.
So that was like super disappointing. And then secondly, he said something to the extent of, I know Erica said she forgave her enemies, but I hate my enemies and I don't want the best for them. Wow. And that was like deeply demoralizing as well.
Yeah. I didn't hear that part. Yeah.
Yeah. Go back and watch it. It was really, I don't know. And some people say, "Oh, he was joking." Read the room, bro. Mm-hmm. I officiate funerals all the time. I've never made a joke like that at a funeral. Read the room. Yeah. That was really, really, really sad, because it's just like, well, then you just got us back into the crazy cycle. Yeah. The way that Erica Kirk was espousing is the way forward. Yeah. Forgive those who wrong you. Well, he was espousing hating our enemies and not wanting the best for them. That's how we got into this crazy nonsense. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's unfortunate. Yeah, it is unfortunate. So in the aftermath of that, there were a lot of institutions like universities, employers, media companies, particularly ABC, and some of their syndicate companies, that dismissed, fired, or suspended their employees that celebrate and mocked Charlie Kirk's death. So what do you make of that? And are those universities, employers, and media companies, are they censoring free speech in a way that Charlie Kirk would not have wanted?
That's a really good question. I think it's important that we separate our faith from common law or natural law.
Right.
We talked about this before, and I think we did an episode on free speech. We as believers don't have free speech. We are bound by the laws of speech as codified in the New Testament. And we want and we celebrate living in a society, in a culture that has free speech, because that means we can share our faith openly and freely. But at the same time, that comes with drawbacks, a double-edged sword. And while I acknowledge someone's right to mock or make jest of his death, I think they're morally wrong, but legally, the laws of the United States of America, I believe they have the right to do that. But now, when we get into the realm of universities or broadcast stations like ABC, those places have their
Google.
own.
You sent me a video.
Google.
From Google. Yeah.
Those places have their own stipulations and own set of laws and rules and regulations. And you, as a professor, you probably you have to sign those things upon getting hired.
A code of conduct.
A code of conduct, yeah. And so those are going to be appealed to upon the termination of someone's employment. They're not just going to, the college professor is not just, or the college administration is just not going to be like, oh, let's just, they made something derogatory about a post on Facebook. Like, I know there was like the F around and find out kind of things being posted on there.
Hmm.
And that's what got a couple people hired or in some hot water, or fired, I'm sorry, in some hot water. But there is a strong possibility that they were actually breaking the code of conduct of
Right.
their jobs. So
Right.
in the case of ABC, for instance, that is regulated by an entity called the FCC, which is a federal,
That's where it gets
federal.
tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a whole other can of worms, whether or not there should even be an FCC. I don't know. Not for today, but the FCC has a code of conduct. And if someone who is a broadcaster under the umbrella of one of these FCC recognized networks violates this code of conduct, then yeah, they deserve to be terminated according to that. They agreed to that code of conduct
Right.
upon being hired. But yeah, I think someone just posting on their private social media, let's say they're just unemployed and they want to post on that,
The
saddens
law's not
me.
going to come after you and say you're going to get arrested because you said this about Charlie Kirk. That's not
I think
where
that's
we're at right
that's
now.
morally deprived to do that, but
Right.
I acknowledge your right
Right.
to do that.
Exactly. And that's where the First Amendment gives us permission to do that. However, if I work at McDonald's and I drive up to my job with a T-shirt that says F Charlie Kirk and walk in, I'm trying to serve burgers, my employer can say, you can't wear that and you're fired for walking in there with that shirt on. That doesn't mean that my First Amendment rights have been violated. That's not what the First Amendment means.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you clock in at McDonald's, as soon as you step foot on their property and clock in, you have to abide by that private corporation's code of conduct.
Correct.
And you agreed to that. You probably checked a little box when you were getting hired in the back room McDonald's. You probably checked a little box and you agreed that you would not wear whatever. I don't know what their code of conduct is, obviously, but that's different. So like, you can't take what Jimmy Kimmel said in his subsequent termination or suspension as an infringement on his First Amendment rights.
No.
It's totally different.
So there is something to be said, though, about the chairman of the FCC suggesting somehow we could do this the easy way or the hard way when it came to some of Jimmy Kimmel's comments. So one could say, and again, should the FCC be a thing or not, right? The FCC really does not monitor cable television as much as you think it does. It monitors broadcast channels. So if you got an antenna and you hooked it up to a TV, you could get ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, right? Those four major syndicate. You don't have to pay for those. Those are available to anyone that has a receiver, right? That's really what the FCC monitors, that and what's on the radio airwaves, right? So the question becomes in terms for free speech, and there's a lot of conservatives, including Ted Cruz, Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, all these others that have actually said that the FCC's treatment of this situation actually violates how conservatives view free speech, which is a very interesting turn of events, right?
Right.
Does Jimmy Kimmel have the right to say whatever he wants on his show? Not really, because he represents ABC, right? And because ABC is a nationally broadcast channel that the FCC has to monitor, he has to play within the bounds, right?
Yeah, there's two levels of governance happening there with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes, right.
And he has to be in compliance with both of those levels of regulation and governance.
Now, how far should that regulation and governance go? Does the regulation and governance keep him from saying something untrue about Charlie Kirk and blaming it somehow on the MAGA crowd? Yeah, probably. If the FCC and ABC started stepping in and saying, well, you can't speak out against President Trump, they would be going too far, way too far, right? And I don't think any of us want to live in a society where you can't turn on media that criticizes those in power, or else we wouldn't have any cable news channels ever. We'd have state-run media, right?
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah. I mean, the FCC was created by a Democrat named Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yes.
He signed it into law, and it's like he did it with the purpose of like establishing fairness and the public interest and public broadcasting. So that's what happens, though, is when the federal government says, okay, we're going to regulate fairness. We're going to regulate, making sure that everyone gets a voice and it's the correct amount of voice. And all. It's just like, just stop. Because
Yeah.
what you're going to do is you're going to create systems that actually do the opposite.
Right.
You're going to weaponize that for your own political advantage.
Right. Right.
So that's a whole other conversation of whether or not the FCC should be there. And I think honestly, it's becoming an obsolete conversation based on
because of what we're doing right now.
Because of what we're doing right now. Yeah, we're not governed by the FCC, so not. It's like
most people get their news from either podcast or online media sources anyway.
Yeah, 100%. I'll get mine from YouTube, which is not governed by the FCC as far as I know.
Yeah. So here's another thing too. Michael Jordan was often asked why he didn't take hardline political stances, and he made a very, very interesting response. He said, "Republicans buy sneakers too." He knew that any political stance that he took, if he took a hardline Democrat stance, he became a political activist as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically going to alienate and isolate 50% of the customers that he had that could buy his product, right?
Yeah.
And so ABC's ratings concerning Jimmy Kimmel Live have been plummeting for years. Like, people don't usually watch late night television. It's not like the golden days of David Letterman or Johnny Carson. It's just not, right? And so if late night viewership of these late night comedy shows is tanking, and you've got a host that just keeps doubling down and continues to isolate 50% of his audience because he's becoming more of a political activist himself, then ABC is wise to say, hey, tone it down there, bud. You're a comedian. Of course you can talk about politics, but if you're just known as a political activist, we're losing money hand over fist, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened to Colbert. But it's ironic to me how many Hollywood leftist progressive elites have come out and said, oh, he's being targeted for free speech because he speak out against Trump. And it's like, okay, maybe we could go down the conspiracy theory of who owns what and Trump owns this, and maybe that's why he's, or you could just look at it as a very simple economic math problem. You lose a lot of money when you turn into a political activist because you isolate 50% of your crowd. So probably the best thing for Jimmy Kimmel is for him to move over to like CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the monologue. I watched the entire monologue and I was like, since when did Jimmy Kimmel move from trying to laugh, like make people laugh, to being this like very outspoken political commentator? This was like not funny whatsoever. Yeah. I just haven't watched him.
If he wants to keep doing that, good for Jimmy Kimmel. I support his right to do that. But he should probably move over to MSNBC or CNN and stop saying he's persecuted because ABC doesn't want that kind of programming on their channel.
Yeah.
Stop saying you're persecuted.
Has he been put back on the air? Has he been reinstated?
Yeah, he got reinstated. He gave a monologue last night. He apologized. Got really emotional as he did. He praised Erica Kirk for what she said about Charlie at the memorial service. So gold star, Jimmy Kimmel. And then he started talking about how he will continue to speak out against President Trump. Fine. That's all well and good. Keep going, man. I support your right to say it. I don't agree with you, but I support your right to say it. But what I'm not buying is the narrative that the Trump administration is trying to shut down free speech just because ABC doesn't want your content on their channel. I don't buy that narrative. I don't buy it at all, because often I'll flip over to MSNBC and I'll watch what Rachel Maddow or Jim Paskey say or Joe Scarborough say just to see that perspective. And they have the right to say it on cable news. But everybody knows if they flip over to MSNBC, what they're getting. They're getting political commentary. They're not getting comedy, right? So
blood pressure is kind of elevated.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. This is why I have it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'll ask you this, Gabe, like, as we kind of land the plane, like, how do we have everyday conversations with people we disagree with? How do we even approach this? Because even like now, like, I couldn't even put up a graphic with Charlie Kirk's face in it to tease this episode coming out without people chiming in and calling me out because I didn't say something right. And so that makes me, this is just Josh Brooker, I'm not saying this is right, wrong, or different. That makes me not want to say anything on social media regarding anything political, because all it turns into is just a dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how do I do this? How do we have everyday conversations with people we disagree with about this kind of stuff?
I was watching this video of these Charlie Kirk fans who set up on the campus of, I think it was Tennessee's campus.
Probably all the
And
volunteers are just terrible people that can't play football. But yeah, probably. Go ahead.
well, they were like these two guys wearing they were like these two guys wearing MAGA hats, and they set up a table on, I think, Tennessee's campus, and they sat there with a folding table, and I don't know what they were talking about, but basically about 5 minutes into their process, there is a mob, I would say, of black students surrounding them, and them being the two guys, white guys wearing MAGA hats, two guys being surrounded by 4, 5, 6 police officers, and then being escorted off campus with this black mob screaming, shouting, flicking them off, throwing things at their car as they're pulling away. And I think in that situation, I'm looking at this video, and that mob is extremely passionate. You have to think, what are they passionate about? What do they believe about these two men that seems to be erroneous, but they believe to be true? Mm-hmm. And I think you have to put yourself in their shoes for a second and say, if I was a black person going to college at Tennessee and these two guys came on my campus, what have I been fed about people that wear these red hats and support Charlie Kirk? And what have I watched online that's educated me about these kinds of people to the point where I feel so strongly and so passionate about that I'm willing to go shout them down and get all my friends to come out and shout them down and get them removed off the campus? Because surely they believe something about these people that they deem a risk to their well-being, to their safety. I don't know what, but yeah, you have to ask, like, what is the root of that? And so I think it comes down to like having these one-on-one conversations with people with a huge amount of patience, and asking questions and saying, what do you believe about me? Or what have you heard about me? Or let me see if I can clear up some misconceptions, I guess.
Right.
But I think you have to be extremely patient and let them talk it through. But to do, I don't know how effective it is to do these kinds of events anymore with the amount of polarization we have in social media and algorithms.
I do think that there needs to be more events like this after Charlie Kirk was shot, because I think we need to get better at dialogue.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if we just say, I'm not going to do it anymore, then, we've kind of
we kind of surrendered.
Yeah. I guess what I hear you say is this: maybe when we have these conversations, we do our best to try to engage an individual as an individual with their own viewpoint and perspective, not just rolling them up into a group and saying, hey, your side thinks this.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know what I think? Like, why don't we talk through it and talk about the ideas, not just accusing each other because you belong to this group and I belong to this group?
I think Charlie Kirk had a way with words that were a little bit more blunt than what Gen Zs could handle and digest.
Kind of, but there's a lot of Gen Zers that loved it.
Yeah,
right?
No, definitely. But I think, man, yeah, it's really tough. I think Charlie Kirk often was like, kind of had I'm not saying he was a prophet, obviously, but when you see biblical prophets come on the scene, they're very blunt with their language. They're very, they're very just very literal.
Right.
And I think if you're going to try to win everyone over, I think you have to tone your language down to say, I value you. I love you. You have to, I hate this. I hate this about millennials and Gen Zs, But when you give feedback to someone in millennial and Gen Z generations, you have to be like, you have to so sugarcoat it and deliver
Right.
this like message that is so careful with their feelings that, but you can be effective in that. It's
Mhm.
just, you have to really give it a lot more effort and attention and patience.
Yeah, I think to have those conversations everyday people, you have to probably come to a point of, hey, I want to just show you that you're valuable as a human, and I care more about you than I do about winning an argument.
Yeah.
But let's talk about these
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that that's how we have conversations. We have to have conversations with people moving forward we disagree with. Is that when we talk to them, we don't let the emotional temperature become so hot
Yeah.
that we forget we're standing across from another human being that bleeds just like we do.
There was a few things I've seen of Charlie Kirk that I'd be like, I wouldn't have said it that way.
Sure.
I think you were looking for an applause from the supporters in your crowd more than you were looking to persuade someone of truth in that moment. Yeah. But, I think there were some times where he publicly embarrassed people that I would like, kind of make cringe a little bit, but I'd be guilty of the same thing, honestly, if I got out and spoke at that many college campuses and dealt with that many like ill-informed humans or angry humans, vindictive humans. I mean, I probably, honestly, don't know that I would be able to do anything different than what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, but by no means was he a perfect man.
No.
I don't think anybody's saying he's a perfect man. I think there's probably more people out there who have come out of the woodwork that have said, I disagree with a lot of what he said, but he was an honorable, respectful person that just wanted to take a stand for what he believed to be true and invite people to dialogue with him about it and reason together about it.
Yeah.
And that is primarily what makes us a civilized culture.
Yeah.
And shame on the people who think that we shouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
Because that is the textbook example of totalitarianism.
Mm-hmm.
To say that we shouldn't do that, we can't do that. There are certain ideas you just should never bring out so they can see the light of day. Mm-hmm. That's totalitarianism. And the future looks really bleak for a culture that has forgotten how to dialogue and speak about truth.
Yeah.
So heavy stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
How many people do you think are going to send us an email saying that our answers, we didn't say it right, we didn't do it right? You think about it. And how many of those emails are going to be from angry conservatives that say we didn't say it conservatively enough, and how many are going to be from angry progressives that said that, we.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really
tally. Yeah.
It's kind of sad, but I don't really care. But I mean, it's a great place to be.
Yeah.
You just go start your own podcast and do it the way you want to do it.
Can I rant just one more time and then we're done?
Yeah.
I know I've been salty today.
Yeah.
One thing that annoys the just absolute mess out of me right now is when people will come to you and I and say, you guys should use your platform to talk about this. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about you guys send us an email and saying, hey, why don't you cover this topic? Please keep sending those. I get upset and frustrated at people that say, you didn't talk about this using your platform and the way that I would have talked about this if I had your platform. Because my response is always, we spent 5 years building this platform. And the reason that we have the listeners that we have is because we've tried to speak about the topics that we're speaking about with grace and be well informed as we're speaking. That's why we have people that listen. You, on the other hand, this imaginary critic that is criticizing us, when you say what you want to say on your platform, you get like 5 likes on your Facebook. And it frustrates you that you don't have listeners and nobody listens to you. So why is it that you now get to look at us and say, you guys should use your platform the way that I would use your platform if I had your platform? Why don't you go build your platform and then you can say whatever the heck you want? So there you go.
Yeah. I always like to say, I like my way of doing it better than your way of not.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Forgive me for being so salty today, Gabe.
It's okay.
This is 2 weeks of just pin up, not talking about this, and it all just
Yeah.
came out. So
Yeah.
there we go.
There you go. That wasn't bad.
That wasn't too bad. Yeah. If anybody has any thoughts, complaints, concerns, criticisms, cries of outrage, we would love to hear them. Seriously, we would. Even if you disagree with everything we said, I support your right to say it and disagree, and I would love to respectfully dialogue with you about it. You can send us an email at gabrieljoerutledge@gmail.com, and Gabe will get it. Or if you want us both to get it, you could send it to
was that my real email address?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So. Yeah.
That's fine.
Is that okay? I can bleep it later if you want me to.
No, I don't care.
Okay. fearsandbiblepodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a comment on the YouTube or the Facebook. Pray for America. We need it right now more than ever. And go to church this Sunday. Love you guys.